Okay, hi all. It's me. I'm back again to talk about a romance. Finally, a romance. Now, please don't come for me. I myself am somewhat of a Christina Lauren stan. I love The Unhoneymooners so much. I've really enjoyed a lot of her books that I've read. Anyway, today we're talking about Love and Other Words, which is arguably Christina Lauren's most popular book. I think it's really made a resurgence in the recent book talk time. I read this book at the end of 2020, and this was, I have to out myself, this was in my podcasting audiobooks phase. So I worked a very boring job. When I say I wasn't neglecting my job, I definitely wasn't. But there's no denying that I was not paying full attention to the things that I was listening to. And I remember not liking it. I didn't really like it. But thinking back, I can't remember why I didn't like it. But because of this book, I say now, I've changed a little bit, but since 2020, I've been saying I don't like second chance romance. I've read a couple of second chance romance since then, and I liked them, so I've changed a little bit, but it was because of this book that I was staying away from them. So that was a recap. Anyway, I decided to read this book again. I listened to it, but I was really paying full attention, okay? I didn't really like it. Once again, it wasn't really my cup of tea. Now, the interesting thing is that I actually made a video about this in 2022, almost a year and a half ago. I made a video, it was one of my first videos about Summer Ever After. No, The Summer House. Summer something. It's Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I read this book about a year and a half ago, and at that time I didn't remember Love and Other Words either, but I read it with my book club. Somebody in the book club said, this is exactly like Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. And I was like, I don't think it's that similar. Yeah, that was just a testament to how little I remembered about it. And there are a lot of similarities, but I'll get into that later. So to talk about the book a little bit, we are following our main lady, whose name I forgot. Anyway, the guy's name is Elliot. Point is, her mom died when she was 10, I think, and from cancer, and then her and her dad are not super duper close. He's kind of the silent type. They buy a summer house because he's super rich. They buy a summer house not too far from where they live. They live in San Francisco. She's 12 or 13 when it starts, and she meets the family across the road, which is a bunch of boys, and one of them is the youngest one is her age, just a little older than her, and they just hit it off, So as far as the story goes, it's a then now then, telling about her life in the future of the now, and then her life in the past of when she was hanging out in this summer house with this kid. And in the now, she's a doctor, and she is dead inside. She is dead inside, and she's engaged to a guy who she's been dating for not very long, less than 6 months, and he has a daughter named Phoebe who's kind of young. His wife, or the mother of his child, I don't know that they were married, but the mother of his child who he was with, the way she explained it literally was making me crack up. But she became an addict, drug addict on a work trip. She's not in the picture anymore. So this main girl is dating this guy named Sean, and his daughter named Phoebe is in the picture too. And she's pretty much living with him, though she has her own place, which is her and her dad's house. And then she has her summer house too. And her dad passed away too. You don't know when, but he passed away. And you're thinking, no wonder she's dead inside. So she's just going about her life. She sees Elliot, and she's like, oh my God. She sees him in a coffee shop, and he sees her, and he's like, girlie, whose name I forgot. He's pretty shook. Then he sees her the next day, and he said, I broke up with my girlfriend last night. And she's like, I'm engaged. She doesn't seem so thrilled to see him. She's a little bit like maybe nervous to see him. But there's like something that happened in their past and they haven't seen each other for 11 years. So whenever it flashes back, it's 11 or more years ago because they knew each other for 5 years and then it's been 11 years. Anyway, so it's just talking about their life in the past. They hung out a lot. Pretty much they just read books and they had this like super cheesy corn dog like thing that they did where they would ask each other their favorite words every time they saw each other. Anyway, they're BFFs. They hang out in this like her closet, which is actually like her library, together and just read. And her dad is kind of on the fence about them, as any parent would be. And they just hang out and la-di-da. In the future, they also just hang out and you're kind of curious about what happened. You're thinking what could have been big enough that she would have just like not said anything for 11 years. And he was really upset when he found out that her dad had died and she didn't tell him. And she thought that he would have known, but they did not have any friends, like mutual friends or anything. So he thought she just like fell off the face of the earth. So there's not a lot of plot. It's just like, pretty much it's just like the then now then is what like makes the story. Because you're very curious about what could have happened. Because she regrets that she didn't talk to him for that long, even though the thing that happened was really big. She still regrets it. He regrets what he did, but he also thinks it wasn't something that would have that justified this. So anyway, his girlfriend, ex-girlfriend now, Rachel. Okay, so he invites the main girl over for Thanksgiving, and when she gets there, he's like, oh, Rachel's gonna be coming. And she's like, you mean your ex-girlfriend that you broke up with after you saw me for 5 minutes? And he was like, yeah. Turns out they had been dating for a long time. And the ex-girlfriend is like, you really messed him up. And she's like she didn't know that or something. All this comes out that like he never dated anybody except this girl, and it took him like years and years to even date her. I'm just gonna get to it because, as I said, there's not much plot. The ending is not the ending, but the conflict was that it was New Year's Day. She was like with her dad at some party in the city from her regular house kind of city. And he was like at some small town podunk little party with like this friend who's real trouble, Christian. And he's like, please come here. I just want you to, they call before midnight. It's New Year's. Did I say that? And he calls her before midnight. He's like, please come here. And he's like obviously very drunk. I love you. I want to marry you. Can you please come here? She's like, my dad's not going to let me drive tonight. Everybody's drunk. And she didn't drink anything, but like, you know, people on the road, I guess, are drunk. And she's like, and also he's like, tell me that you love me or something. And she's like thinking, I don't want to say it this way. I don't want to say it this way. I hate when people put like so much on saying I love you the first time. Plus they've known each other for 5 years at this point. And they were pretty much together, and they had, I don't even want to talk about this, but they did sleep together once, and their dad, like, pretty much walked in on them, and it was the cringiest, worst thing I've ever read. I was literally like this, listening to it. Why do people have to put that kind of thing into words? It was the worst. So they're 16 or something, and they, like, his dad, like, her dad, like, walks out of the house. They don't even know where he's going. They don't know how long he's going to be gone or anything. They jump each other's bones, and he walks in as it's happening, and they are like, whoosh, before he walks in the room. But and she was like, oh, I can't believe we almost got caught. You did get caught. Your dad walked in right at the aftermath. You got caught. Okay? You think he's dumb? No. There's so many things that he would notice. So many things. But no. There's like, oh man, I can't believe we almost got caught. Yeah, no, you got caught. Yeah, you got caught. Your dad's just kind of chill. Anyway, so she gets kind of nervous about this conversation. She's like, oh, I really feel like I need to go see him. Like, even though the conversation was good, I feel like I need to go see him. And her dad's like, okay. Like, if you really love him, like, I know you really love him, so why don't you go? So she goes. And he's like, not answering. And finally, somebody picks up the phone, and it's Christian. And she's like, is Elliot still there? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, okay, so why'd you answer his phone? He's like, anyway, I don't really remember what happened, but there were people on the phone who were trying to tell Christian to tell her to not come. But he was like, it's not my problem. And he hangs up. Anyway, she goes there. And she's like, where's Elliot? And his other friend, Brandon, who's like actually a good guy, supposedly, was like, you shouldn't be here or something. Anyway, she goes upstairs and she sees the scene, which is in a bedroom. Elliot's laying like on the bed, like naked. Not naked. So that's the first thing. He's not naked. His pants and his underwear have been pulled down and his shirt has been pulled up. And he's laying down, and the girl, Emma, who's just like a girl who lives around, who also happened to be his first kiss, I think, is like, her head is on his chest. And they're both knocked out asleep. So when I say knocked out asleep, I mean they're knocked out as in they were both, or at least he, was super drunk. And she knew that he was super drunk. So here's what a sane person would do. She's literally his girlfriend, okay? Here's what a sane girlfriend would do. Walk in the room, be like, hey, girl, get out of here. Talk to the boyfriend and be like, are you okay? What happened? Because she knew he was drunk, and she was not reading the clues. Like, he's not the one who undressed himself. Or he could have easily not been the one who undressed himself, because his clothes are not off all the way, and he's just laying down. And when she had talked to him like an hour or something before, he was already super drunk, and he never drinks. So I was very frustrated with her reaction to that, which was like, oh my God, he's cheating on me. And I mean, obviously I see the way it looks, but she couldn't at least wake him up and be like, are you okay? No, she leaves. And I'm thinking, and she didn't talk to him for 11 years after this because of this? Well, it gets a little bit more complicated. She leaves, she goes to her dad's, or like her house. And she's like crying. She forgot to call her dad and say like, I got here and I'm fine. Her dad pulls up and is like, oh my God, you forgot to call me, so here I am. She's like, ugh. And he's like, we will figure this out later. Let's go home. So they're driving home and they get in an accident. Not their fault. And he passes away right there. And she is fine. And she has to move in with her aunt and uncle for like a year, and then she goes to college, and she's like, everything's a blur, I don't remember anything. This is the other thing that's unbelievable to me. Sometimes in these books, people like become doctors, like it's like you can just like become a doctor. She's like, I don't even remember. Meanwhile, she like wasn't very good at school, didn't seem to ever really have a desire to be a doctor, or at least she didn't say it or anything. All she did was like read books. But she read like normal books, like just normal books that people read. Not anything like crazy advanced. And then she's like out of it for her senior year of college. Somehow gets into a super nice school. I forget what it was. Goes to medical school and becomes a doctor. Anyway, okay, so that kind of bothered me. It's like, oh, teehee, let's just black out for 5 years and become a doctor. So the reason she didn't ever talk to him, of course, is because she was like out of it emotionally. Also, she couldn't help but kind of blame him because of him, she went there. Because of him, she was so upset that she didn't call her dad to tell him that she was okay or whatever. And because of him, her dad drove down there. And because of him, they like booked it out of there that night. So, of course, she was blaming him a little bit. And, I think she kind of gets over it over the years. But he had no idea about any of this. So imagine the trauma when he finds this out. Second thing is, yes, he was indeed blacked out during the events of that night. And he said, like, of his very vague memories that he has, he was positive that it was her, the main girl, and not this like random girl from his town. All this time, she hadn't even thought to... Anyway, she was like villainizing him. Like, she really thought that he had like went ahead and just cheated on her like it was nothing. And so she was really hurt by that. But it was like, okay, you guys were like BFFs for years. Like, his personality and everything. You could at least give him a chance to say something. I don't know. It just was like the circumstances were very like, you couldn't have at least checked on him. None of his friends were even like even though they knew it was out of character, all of them were like, oh man, he shouldn't have done that. None of them were like, hey, what the heck is going on here? And he said he woke up the next morning and he was still naked, and people were like cleaning up the house, and he was so ashamed because he was like naked. Like, none of your friends even like threw a blanket over you. Like, okay, nobody in your life is looking out for you. All right, let's just get that squared away. Then, okay, so that was the story. All right, and then they end up getting it together in the end. Also, she breaks up with her fiance, obviously. And I really hated the fiance bashing. All of a sudden, she was like, my fiance's like not a very good guy. Even though he was like world's best dad and also like was a very good man to her. She was like, oh, he's just like not emotionally available. Even though she was like also the least emotionally available person on the earth. Anyway, I just thought that was unnecessary. She could have just been like, hey, and in the end, actually, she did have a conversation with him that was like, I don't think this is good for each other. Like, we obviously knew this was the easy thing to do, to like be with somebody else who's like broken so that we don't have to face our problems. And he was like, yeah, you're right. But it was also a little bit of bashing of him. And it was like, girl, you're also the problem here. So next I was going to talk about how this is really similar to Every Summer After. It was so similar. First of all, he's a doctor. In Every Summer After, he's a doctor. Secondly, but he knew he wanted to be a doctor forever, so I feel like it was a little bit more valid. Secondly, they do talk about her period in both of them. It was weird. Thirdly, the conflict involved cheating that wasn't really cheating. I mean, okay, no, of course it's cheating, but it involved cheating that like they didn't get us. You know how I feel about it, because I've talked about this before. I really have no, like, I have a zero tolerance for cheating. But the cheating that happened in Every Summer After was, and this is a spoiler, so just a second. They were on a break. And I mean, like, they were broken up. As far as I remember, they were broken up, and she slept with his brother, which was a big, she should not have done that. Big mess up. But I don't think that they were together. Because he went to school, he went to college, to med school or something, and he was like, he like cut himself off from her just so he could like focus on school. He had his own good reasonings, and she thought that he was like breaking up with her. And she thought that they were like pretty much done because he never talked to her. And so then she went and slept with his brother a little bit later. Bad. But no explanation was ever had, and they ended up not talking to each other for 10 years. Oh, by the way, and I didn't even say these things. It's very similar. She got a lake house or whatever next to his house, and they like hang out every day in the summer and blah, blah, blah. And they're all both concerned about the other one's real life and whatever. Then they don't talk for like 10 years. That was all the same, of course. How could I forget that? So the entire premise was pretty much exactly the same. Then there were smaller things that were similar that were very surprising. But I thought that the conflict in Every Summer After was more like that was her fault. Even though he did some bad things, I think it was like that was her fault. But the conflict in Love and Other Words was a little bit more like, I can't see where she was coming from. Though, in my opinion, even though she's like a 17-year-old girl or whatever, she did not act right that night. She should have, at the very least, even if it looks like he cheated on her, given the circumstances, at the very least, she should have checked on him. I'm not saying she should have heard him out or whatever, but she should have just at least, like a decent human being, should have checked on him or his friend. As I said, nobody was looking out for him. There was parental death in Every Summer After as well. So it's true that there were some things that were eerily similar. I just will say this. As far as second chance romance goes, there's some that I've read and I like. And Every Summer After, I liked it more than this. I liked her writing better, and I liked the story that there was. I liked it a little bit better. The point is, second chance romance is really difficult to do because if the conflict, like the reason why they ended up breaking up or whatever, is like, it's hard to do it. It's hard to toe that line between like, it was bad, but it's not so bad that I'm minding them getting back together again. But I also hate like a miscommunication trope as well. So that's the reason why I kind of stay away from second chance romance. But all in all, the big thing that I really try and stay away from is the summer thing. Like, why with the summer thing? It's the same with The Summer I Turned Pretty. I really dislike the summer thing. The summer house, like summer attitude, the summer, like for normal people, I don't think summer is really like that different to like the rest of the year. Also, Elliot in this, as far as the characterization goes, she was like, as I said, she was like emotionally turned off. She had a lot of issues that she needed to deal with that she was not dealing with. And he, oh God, they were so cringe the way they were with the words and it was a cringe factor of 1,000 every time that he talked. So I wasn't loving it. I hope that her ex-fiance gets some closure with his ex-wife and grows, but he's already a really great dad, so I'm so happy for him. The main couple, I don't know. I don't know about them. Side note. So I said their childhood sleeping together scene was like made me want to melt into the earth and never come out. Their adult one at his brother's wedding. Christina. Lauren. It was horrible. Absolutely horrible. She walks back in. So they do it in the freaking garden. She walks back in. She's like, because he like ran away or something. She's like, where's Elliot? And the groom picks a twig out of her hair. And she's like, oh my God, I didn't even notice. I didn't even think about what I look like. My hair's probably crazy. The guy comes back in and there's like lipstick all over him. So you know what that means. Because the first thing I'm thinking is, oh my God, her lipstick is. And then I'm like, but maybe she didn't wear lipstick. Please, she didn't wear lipstick. Please don't mention lipstick. He comes in, he got lipstick on his collar or something. And I'm thinking, oh my God, there's lipstick all over her freaking face right now. At the wedding. So I thought I was about to die. So all in all, not my fave. Not my fave, okay? Please somebody tell me a romance that I'm going to love. I'm simply dying to read a good romance right now. Right this second. Okay, that's all I have to say. See you later, bye.